I can't hear you.
No, you can't. Why? Because I'm not talking. That's why.
Perfect.
Oh, we're all good. Oh, look at the room. It's filling up. Hello, everyone. Welcome into our session today. I can't wait to get started with all of you. While you're coming in, if you want to tell us where you're calling in from, what school you're working with, and what's something that you're hoping to learn about in today's webinar, I'd love to hear what are some things that you'd like to see. We'll do our best to make sure that we cover all of your questions and answers. But who are you? Where are you calling in from? What's your school? What are your students? And what's something that you hope to learn today? I'm Sara Davila. I'm based out of Chicago. I work kind of everywhere. I work with institutions, ministries of education, publishers like Pearson, all over the world to support students. And I am super excited to be here today to talk to all of you. So I'd love to see where you're coming in from. I see we do have a lot of people coming in. Lenore from Mexico City. My goodness, thank you so much for coming, Lenore. We are definitely going to talk about planning English lessons with AI, so stay tuned on that one. That will be there. And your name looks really familiar. I may have seen you on a webinar before. Alejandra from Texas. Matthew from Minnesota. Nice to see you, Matthew, working in corrections. It's great to have you here. James Hanton from Savannah, Georgia. Is it hot in Savannah? It is still 50 degrees in Chicago. The city is never going to get warmer. I have given up. It's just going to be winter forever. Leslie Marie, nice to see you here. Enos Campos from Peru, welcome. Thank you for coming. We've got Miriam from Florida, Rebecca from South Carolina. From the UK, you stayed up late. Salahan stayed up late to come and join us from the UK. Not alone over there. We've got Vizena from Michigan. Samika from Maryland, all over the place. Lots of Florida. There we go. Emil from Florida. Christina, nice to see you in from Maine. All right. Rebecca from Chester, Illinois. So neighbors. Nice to see you there. Maria Muniz coming in from the Florida Department of Corrections as well. Love to see that people working in corrections is great for anyone who needs English language learning. We'll get into that. Peggy from Rockville. All right, excellent. Seeing a lot of people keep typing in your names. If there is something specific that you want to learn today, we would love to learn about it. But I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Danielle to kick us off, and then we'll come back to it.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad you're joining us today. We're excited to be hosting this session with Sara Davila, Global Scale of English Ambassador and AI Education Innovator. Sara specializes in curriculum design, language learning, technology integration, and she's the founder of Educating Her World. She brings over 20 years of experience leading international curriculum reforms, developing VR and AI-based English learning systems, and helping institutions personalize instruction and improve outcomes. Her work bridges academic theory with real-world classroom impact, and we are thrilled to have her with us today. Before we dive in, a few quick announcements. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with all registrants after the webinar. We'll also be providing and sending you certificates of attendance by the end of the week. And thanks again for being here. With that, I'll hand it over to Sara.
And with that, we are definitely going to get going. So again, my name is Sara Davila. I am very excited to be here with you. I see a lot of people from all over the US, from California. We've got Trina calling in from Indiana, a couple of neighbors of mine, also from Ohio. We've got Les Roberts. I know Les. Carol from Manitoba, a couple of Canadians in the room. I love that. We've seen Peru on here, Mexico. Now we also have Canada. I saw the UK. So we have a little bit of a global audience, definitely a little bit of a local audience, and I am super excited to meet all of you today. As Danny said, again, my name is Sara Davila. If you haven't seen me before, you may not know what to expect, but this is going to be a very interactive session. So as we're working today, I'm going to have questions for you. I'm going to invite you to send questions to me. And please don't be shy. If we can answer everything, we will. If you want to be sure your question doesn't miss, take a look in Zoom for the chat specifically for the Q&A. Otherwise, feel free just to put that right in the chat space. I'm keeping an eye on that chat as we go through. And so just before we get started too, just a huge thank you for Pearson for having us today and also for creating a really fantastic tool for use in the English language classroom. So this is my gigantic title. I somehow managed to get this on the screen. It's a smart lesson generator, and we're going to be designing personalized industry relevant learning with AI. So my big question here before I get started, I have three questions actually. How many of you just like yes or no, or if you just want to tell me if you have used AI, yes or no, and what model or models have you used? I'm taking a look at the chat. Kim, I will do my best to teach you how to use AI. I hope that you get it. So Miriam says, no, I've got a no, I haven't. Lots of no's. Oh, this is great. I know Randy's used ChatGPT. Vilma, Trina, also not users yet. That's great. Matthew is also in the ChatGPT. Joseph has used Claude. I like Claude a lot. Amelia also with ChatGPT. Amelia, no, hasn't gotten there yet. Kathleen has just gotten started. All right, so we've got a bit of a mix here. We've had some GPT people. I see Cloud. Ooh, Becky with Notebook LLM. That's one of my favorites. So right now we're in this incredible time in our world where we actually have access to these really robust AI models. And for those of you who have used ChatGPT, I love this. Adrian, I think you just said the perfect thing. I haven't successfully used ChatGPT yet. That actually is my next question. For those of you who have used ChatGPT, Cloud, Gemini, how successful have you been with creating content for your English language classes in those models? So if you really quickly want to type in there, it's like, I can absolutely get what I want, or it's a nightmare. I'm just kind of curious as to some of your experiences. Joseph says rarely. I lose a single word. I think that sums that up really nicely. Rarely do I get exactly what I'm looking for GPT. We'll see if anyone else has some answers. Thane says it's slow started, but running. That's great. Matthew created a worksheet and gave up on it. Matthew, I like that you're really honest about that. Honestly, if you have used ChatGPT to try to custom create content, I'm right there. I used to create a resignation letter. That's great, Randy. I'm glad that that worked for you. Adrian, I need to ask the right questions, but it was bad wording. 8 out of 10 if the parameters are right, says Ed Claire. Jeannie says slow, but better now. So I think that you can see from the comments, if you have not used AI yet, it's not always easy to get exactly what you're looking for from that content. And I think this is where the Smart Lesson Generator is a really interesting tool for us to use as English language educators. As we mentioned, I am Sara. I'm a Global Scale of English Ambassador. So you're going to get two things inside of this presentation: a little bit of information about the Global Scale of English and the Common European Framework of Reference, and a lot of information about the Smart Lesson Generator. Our big objectives for today is to understand what this generative content is and how it works. Then we're going to spend a lot of time hands-on. We're going to look at the generator. We're going to look at how we can create custom content. Then we're going to look at doing leveled content, and finally doing full-on content development. So before we jump in too far, really quickly, how many of you are familiar with the CFR or the GSE? These are, I'm just kind of curious, we'll put that out there. If you know about them, tell me what they are. If Jeannie says both, no hesitation right there. Bali says both. I have a feeling this is an audience that may know. Marilyn, Christina, know. If you don't know the GSE or the CFR, are you familiar with NRS levels? Are you familiar with some of the other language levels that we might use, like ACTFL levels? So there are a couple of different types of language levels. Yes, NRS, right? If you're not familiar with the CFR or the GSE, you may know those NRS levels. The CFR, the big difference between the CFR and the NRS is the CFR is the Common European Framework of Reference. It is probably the largest globally used set of leveled standards, and it contains a lot of objectives. So it's not as tailored as the US NRS, but it really covers a lot with language learning. And the Global Scale of English is a different tool. The Global Scale of English is absolutely one of my favorite things on the planet. The GSE is a research-backed language set of language learning objectives that have been research leveled to the Common European Framework of Reference, and from there cross-map against multiple different types of language learning standards. And this is a fantastic tool for anyone who teaches English, because one of the things that it will help you do is understand the level of difficulty of the content that you're working with. And when I say 3,500 language learning objectives, what can you do with that? We're going to talk a little bit about what that means, that kind of granularity. Sydney Rice knows the GSE. She loves it. Samika knows access levels. Great. So if you know levels, the CFR, you'll get there. And Sydney, yep, I bet you've got some curriculum built on CFR. If you're not using the CFR, NRS is very common. And that's great too. And I see a lot of people are using NRS. So with this global scale of English, what this allows us to do is get granularity into learning. And what that means for us as teachers, especially English language teachers, is that this helps us target the learning zone so that we can effectively teach our students. And feel free to answer this question in the chat, but how often have you been working with a class or a group of students and you have maybe one or two students who are telling you, no, teacher, my English is not very good, I'm not getting better? Or you have students who might take a language assessment and then a couple of weeks later, they take that assessment again and it looks like they have made no progress in their English. If you've had that experience or you've had students who've had that experience, let me know inside of the chat box. I think this is something many of us in our career can probably relate to. I'm kind of curious. James Hampton, not try. There we go. Yes, Christina says so true. Christina early there. So I think this is a challenge for a lot of us. It's how do we make sure that our students are making progress? And the key here, I think many of us have heard this term before, is VPD. It's that zone of proximal development. And the real challenge with language learning is that zone, especially in language learning and levels, is actually really big. And so sometimes making progress, even any kind of progress at all, is really hard to see because the progress really needs to be big in order for us to see it. But with the global scale of English, we get incremental progress. So by putting notches on that scale of learning, this allows us to target learning more effectively and really kind of help students climb that ladder of learning. And this is something that I love doing. So with the global scale of English, if I know where my students are at, like a 40, which is an A2 on the CFR, or a high beginner in an NRS standards, then I can now plan specifically what type of content I need to help my students make progress. And once I do that, I can actually stack up learning experience that are going to help my students make transitions in their language. So for example, maybe I start off with some students who are general English. They're performing between a 35 and a 46 on the GSE. Again, this is in a high beginner space on NRS, and this is A2 in the CFR. And then as my students are making progress in English, maybe I want to decide they finished this course, they were getting close to this 46, where should they go next? Perhaps they go into English for academic purposes. That would be right around their current level and take them to new areas of progress. Or maybe if they're finishing around a 46, they might be ready for a pathway program or maybe an English for nursing program. So using these learning objectives, this really helps us understand how we can create that progress. And what's even better about this, I'm going to go back and forth between sharing my screen and stopping. So hopefully I don't make anyone seasick. But I do want to show you where you can get this phenomenal tool. So you can Google this if you want to. It's the easiest thing in the world to find. We're looking for the Global Scale of English Teacher Toolkit. And when you get to this toolkit, this is my one big gift to everyone today. My absolute favorite thing. In fact, I'll pop this in the chat box for you in case you cannot wait until the end of this webinar. What this will give you access to is learning objectives, and not just learning objectives for one type of students. We have academic learners, adult learners, or many of you might be working with professional learners, those who need to learn business English or English for very specific purposes in the workforce, like nursing or construction or healthcare or nutrition. So using the global scale of English, let's say I want to go to professional learners. Let's say I want to choose a job role. Let's do construction, and I'm going to pick up electricians. I'll make that a little smaller so you can see it. I'm going to hit choose. I know that my students are around an A2 to an A2 plus. That's that high beginner, low intermediate area in our NRS levels. I'm going to show the results and watch this magical thing happen. This is one of my favorite things. Make sure my browser is moving. And here we go. I have a quick list of learning objectives at that level. And now these learning objectives I can use to start creating content to support my learners. And so this is what I love about the teacher toolkit. I'm going to take off these filters because I have that electrician. Let's just show everything inside of this level. And as you can see now, I have 395 objectives. All right, we're not seeing the screen. Thank you so much, Rob. I do not love talking when people can't see me. So let's try that again. I'll show this over here. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that now, or a quick yes in the chat box.
Yep.
Don't let Sara just talk to herself. That's not a good idea. All right. Can we see the toolkit? There we go. Hey, all right. So if you follow that link, you should already see it. I'll show this to you one more time. So this is our GSE teacher toolkit. What I'm doing here is I'm filtering for learners. I'm doing professional learners. I'm filtering for language levels, so I can set or pin a level. And then I can, even if I want to, choose a job role, like, for example, let's go down to one of my favorites, which is healthcare. I could get really granular and pick a job role, but I'm just going to go for all healthcare. And then when I show my results here, you'll see this happen on the screen. This is going to give me 60 objectives that are all relevant to the healthcare field that I can now use to create learning content for my students. So from asking to give or to refuse permission, an important skill if you work inside of healthcare, to understanding how to use a piece of equipment. And what's more, if you don't already know this, to curate this list of GSE learning objectives, Pearson actually looks specifically at the job roles that most of our learners use inside of the US and at these specific job descriptions, and use that to create the toolkit. And this is actually important for the Smart Lesson Generator, because the Smart Lesson Generator uses the global scale of English and the Common European Framework of Reference, these two huge sets for benchmarking difficulty and language ability, to help generate AI-produced content. So this is actually really relevant to what we're doing, and it makes our work as educators easier, especially if we're trying to use AI inside of our classroom. So this is why I wanted to show you that, because this background information is important. If you're using with AI models, the data that those models were trained on is really important. And if you're using something like a ChatGPT, or you're using something like Gemini, that has been trained very broadly on massive data sets. But as English language teachers, we need things that are specifically tailored to the needs of us and our learners. And so that is what this lesson generator is going to do. So really quickly, give me a quick thumbs up. I changed screens again. Let me know if you can see it. I just want to make sure. I love a good office interaction. There we go. Thank you so much. So as you can see, this is a smart lesson generator. We can get a look at what it is. We're going to take a look deeply into how this all works. And this is an AI tool created by Pearson that we can use to create different types of content. Now, before we jump over to the lesson generator, a few things that I need to tell you. First, this lesson generator, it is not finished. It is absolutely an evolving product. This is something that is going to update. It may change. What is available inside of the lesson generator may change as you're using it. So do be aware that this is something that is in the process of being developed. And as you can see, I have moved over to the active smart lesson generator now. So you should be seeing this on your screen. It's not quite in beta. We're a little bit out of beta, but we might still run into some hiccups. We're going to do a live demo today, James. So you'll see what I mean. It's definitely on its way, but it's still absolutely in development. And the other reason I say that is, as you can see right now, the activity types that we have are fairly limited. If you've used Magic School, I saw somebody note that, you might think, oh, well, they have like hundreds of different things I can do. Yes, they do, but not for English language learning. And that really is the difference. That's what sets this off, is it's about using English. And you can see here we have a couple of activities: lesson hook, vocabulary presentation, grammar, communication starter, reading comprehension, exit ticket. And I will argue that with this and your other course books and content that you have, this is everything that you need to create great lessons. So let me show you how this works very quickly. before I give you one, we're going to start off with a lesson hook. Can anyone here, can you tell me if you are using future? Because we're going to use future for this. So any future users on the call today, any future fans on the call today? I'm a big fan of future. So this will be fun for you. All right, Mahal is using future. Yeah, Anita, I love seeing an exclamation point. Yes, I am glad. Amelia, I'm also glad that you're thrilled about this. Kathleen, I love it. All right, so we're going to use future here. This is the first thing that you should know about the Smart Lesson Generator is you don't have to upload your content from Pearson. Please stop doing that. We would all love for that content to stay just in the books where it belongs. But if you want to create custom content for your students based on future, you can go in here and do that. You just choose your course. As you can see, I picked future. And then from here, we can actually choose literally the level of future that we're working with, from intro all the way up to advanced. So everything is covered here. If you are currently a future user, you should have access to this. If you cannot find it, reach out to your Pearson reps. They are your number one resource and your best tech support, and they will show you how to get access and get in there right away. But if you are currently a future user, you should be able to get access to this and you can sign up for this. Now, I do want to give a couple of other caveats. When I started working with the Smart Lesson Generator, I did a couple of experiments to see how well it handled content at the lowest level. And this is one area where the Smart Lesson Generator is definitely still evolving. It does a good job, but it's more consistent at level 2 and higher. So if you're working at that level 2 area or up, you'll always get great content. If you're working lower than that, you may need to make a few more modifications. But overall, I find this works very well. So we're going to choose future. For those of you who use future, I'm going to use level 3. Pick a unit. What's a good unit? Anyone have a favorite unit that they want me to work with here? I'd love to see it. Who's got a favorite unit? I saw all those future users. I'll give you a second. I'm a very fast typer, so I'm not patient sometimes with typing. Getting a job. That's a good one. Classic. Where do we have getting a job? There we go. So we're going to unit 4. We'll do getting a job. Let's start off with the vocabulary section. So this is how easy this is to use. For those of you who have used other language models like ChatGPT or Claude, you know that prompting can be a real challenge here. Notice the lack of prompting that I have to do here. I literally just put in my course information and I'm going to hit this button that says generating an activity. That's it. I'm done. It knows that I'm using future. It knows the level of future. It knows the information about the unit already. It knows the vocabulary. It knows the grammar, and it's pooling all of that information together. So you are not wasting your time trying to create the perfect prompt to get to this information. And now you see here that it is already generating that. Hopefully you see that on the screen. If you don't see it, let me know. I do love that Pearson sprinkled in some fun facts and some other magic there. And here we go. I'm going to make this bigger. Let me know if you can all see that with a thumbs up in the chat box. So here is a lesson hook. I love this. This is a great way to start a lesson. This is an activate schema activity I can do to get my students to start talking. And here it is. He's late for his first job interview. His alarm didn't work this morning. Now he's running to the office. I'm already starting to see some of the grammar forms coming in. His shirt isn't ironed. Do you see all of the negatives here? And his hair is all over the place. The person waiting before him looks perfect. Nice suit, came early, and has a folder full of papers. So this is a wonderful little lesson hook. And what our students will do with this, we even have the teacher notes. I can hand this out to my students. I can have them discuss this in pairs or as a small group. I might have them make a list of what they would do, or maybe some advice they might give to Tom, or how they could help Tom as their friend. All of this information is very easy for me to add in as the teacher, which I love. So that is how easy that was. Now, it doesn't give me a lot of additional information. It's just a very simple lesson hook, but this allows me to pick that up and bring that right into my classroom. So I can start here, and then I have my students open their book to Unit 4, and now we can really dig into the lesson. So that is how simple that works. And there's a little bit more that goes on here. So follow me. I'm going to take my mouse cursor down here to the bottom of the screen, and you'll notice here it says refine output. When you click on this button, remember we talked about the global scale of English earlier and that zone of proximal development. Here is where this comes into play with the Smart Lesson Generator. Notice here on my screen, I have two buttons, one that says stretch and one that says remedial. So now maybe I know that most of my students in the class can handle this lesson prompt. They can have this conversation. They can absolutely engage with that. But give me a quick, like an emoji. How many of you have students for whom this content is still a little bit above their level? They are future 3 students, but this is just a little bit beyond what they can do. Does anyone have that issue or something like that in the class? I see, here they come. Yes, yes. Vesina, Vesna understands, Ed Claire, Rebecca, James, Michael. So what's great here is if I was using something like ChatGPT, I could spend hours trying to get this at the right level or getting a pre-activity or remediation activity. Here, this is built in. I'm going to click that remedial button. I'm going to click refine. And watch what happens. Again, my Smart Lesson Generator is working here. It is literally looking at the global scale of English. It's looking at the range that that original content was created at, and now it's leveling it backwards, so there will still be some scaffolding there. And notice here, it's put it together. Here was my original. Again, I'm going to blow up my screen so we can see this here on the screen. That was the original prompt. Check this out. Here is our remediation. I have a shorter prompt. It has a bit of a summary. And I love when I saw this, I was so happy. I shouted for joy. I really did. I was like, oh, look, it actually created the stems. I can use this as share language for my students. Tania, this is a life changer. You're welcome. It's not me. Thank Pearson. I'm just happy to be here. But I also agree. Isn't this great? And now imagine from here, you can copy and paste this into a Word document and you are ready to go. In fact, they've put this great handy little button here at the bottom. It says copy. So I'm going to copy it just like that. We're going to open up a Word document. Again, I'm going to stop sharing because we will go back and forth a few times today, but we'll share again and let me know if you can see it. You are helping me out here by giving me that prompt. Yes, can you see my blank Word document? Full screen mode.
Yeah.
Did I see it? Yep, we've got it. Thank you, Danny. All right, we're going to go ahead and paste. So this is where this gets fun. And we're pasting. And there we are. Now, all of that content from the Smart Lesson Generator, click of a button. Now it is in my Word document. And from here, I can edit it. I can make changes. Maybe I want to take that remediation activity and I want to put that on different lines. I could do that. Like all of this is now easy to work with, easy to edit, completely finished and ready to go, fully aligned with Future. So for those of you who are currently using Future, is this something that you would want to use inside of your classroom? Would you use this tomorrow? Because you can use it tomorrow. You could actually use this today. If you're using Future, this is something you have access to. So I highly recommend that one, but hopefully that has given you a good sense of it. All right. I'm going to check out my chat. What are we saying? Yes, I see some yeses, like yes, yes. Can this be integrated back into the lesson gen for future use? So right now, you cannot take that content and run it through this model again. It's not unboxed in the same way that GPT is. But what I do love about this is when you've generated your content, I have put my Smart Generator screen back up. You will have a historical archive of it here on the left-hand side of your screen. This does overwrite. So what I do like to do is to get my content and download it. But as you can see, I have quite a bit of content here. So what I do is as soon as I've got something I like, I'll copy that out and I'll take that with me. So that's just a quick, just to get you an idea of what we can do here. And again, this will work with Pearson products. We're going to go over to a vocabulary presentation next. Actually, let's do this one. So again, if you're using Future, that is available. We also have Speak Out, Gold, and Roadmap. And if there's a title you're using, you're like, oh, Sarah, I really wish that North Star was here or University Success or something else. Keep coming back, keep asking for those things. I believe that more courses will be added in the future. But again, we're just in the early days of creating this. So we've started off with the content that we know is super useful. And this is where we're going first. Now, I think that question, James, for integrating this back in and doing some different things, one of the other great features of the lesson generator is I can do this course specific content, but I can also do custom content. So here's a quick question. How many of you are using Future or one of Pearson's other series? You're preparing your students not for academics, not for going into university, but you're preparing your students for work that they're either currently doing or a job that they're trying to get. Who has that situation? I'm going to drink some water while you tell me. All right, James says yes. Anyone else have preparing students for work? And what are some of the jobs that your students are doing? Yep. Vesna says me too. Andrea, yes. Sydney absolutely has this. Amelia, yes. All right, Michael, yep. Data analytics. Letitia's preparing her students for data analytics. I love that. That's great. I might steal that one in a few minutes. So one of the other great things about that, prep for restaurant work, amazing. I love that. Ed Claire. We're in AE. I'm not sure. Is that American? I'm not sure what AE is, Michael. If you wanted to tell me, I'll take that. All right. So we have a couple of people who are working with different types of things. One of the next best things about the lesson generator is this button right here where we can customize things. And so with customizing, I'll go back to the beginning. We'll show you how this works. So I can go all the way to the beginning. There we go. Actually, back. All right, let's actually start with the lesson hook again. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to actually create a cohesive learning experience with the lesson generator. And we can start here with the lesson hook. And what you'll notice is when I click this custom button, there are a few pieces of information that I need to give to my lesson generator to be successful here. I'm going to need my lesson topic, the learning objective, and maybe a few vocabulary words. Now, because I like to be a little bit prepared, one of the pieces that I created for us today was I actually looked at the global scale of English teacher toolkit to understand maybe some job roles, and turn that into some objectives. So I'm going to share this on the screen. Again, let me know, give me a quick thumbs up if you can see it. So these are just a couple of examples of different types of jobs that I put together. And again, if you are using something like the Smart Lesson Generator, a little bit of organization before you jump into using the generator is really going to save you a lot of time. So you'll see here, I have 3 different levels. I was looking at A2 plus, B1, and B2. And again, I have my GSE levels. If you're not familiar with the CEFR, that A2 plus, that's at the low intermediate. And then that B1 is when we start to get into that intermediate space. B2 is a high intermediate. So this is really where our students are starting to transition into that advanced space. So I wanted to get a bit of a range. And you can see I have a couple of different jobs like construction, manufacturing, hospitality. I had someone ask me though before this session, they were like, can you do phlebotomist? So I'm just really quickly, does anyone on the call today have students who are going into healthcare, maybe phlebotomy? That is a word I'm still trying to pronounce correctly. Rebecca says yes. All right, great. That's good. So this will be relevant at least to some people. I'm not going to do every single one of those jobs, but I have curated this list and we will be happy to share this set of jobs with you if you want to try this out. So for phlebotomist, I'm going to have my students, and I'm copying and pasting information. So we're going to start with explaining procedures and confirming a patient identity. This is probably something that your phlebotomists are going to have to do. That's a basic sort of thing. And I actually have my prompt. We're going to use the B1 level. And the reason I like this level, this is that pre-intermediate level. That is often where our students need a lot of input, but we never have enough. And to get something that's specifically customized to phlebotomy, for English language learners, how easy is that to do for those of you who are currently working with those students? You might be able to give us some insight into that. But generally, if you're construction, healthcare, restaurant, data analytics, when we're looking for custom content that's at a very specific level, that can often be very difficult. So what I'm going to do is generate a custom lesson hook for my phlebotomists. We're going to explain procedures. They're going to talk about that procedure clearly. Because I pre-built this, I have my vocabulary words. So I'm going to grab those. So here are quick vocab words. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is hit enter there. Very important, if you've used the Smart Lesson Generator and you're like, vocab isn't working, be sure you hit enter. This tells me when I see that with a bubble that it has been entered into the system. And now we go to next step. The next step is my favorite step. What's the global scale of English here? Again, I'm aiming for a B1 level, and this could be appropriate if I have some A2 plus students. That's that high beginner. Maybe they're ready for that pre-intermediate challenge. I might go for B1 for those students as well. And again, we're going to generate activity. This is a great time to take a sip of coffee, a little drink of water if you've been talking. And what this is going to do is do this. I love where it says applying pedagogical best practices. It really does a great job with this. Again, this is not just going to ChatGPT. This has been custom trained by Pearson experts on Pearson's special data sets that they have created specifically for this so that we can really get that alignment to the global scale of English and CFR. And here is what we have. So again, this is my lesson hook. I'm going to blow this up on the screen. Let me know if you can see that. And here it goes. It's my students, they're watching a medical TV show. The scene shows a new nurse who needs to take blood from a patient. Just as she's about to take the blood, she notices something wrong. The patient wristband shows John Smith, room 201, but her test labels say John Smith, room 210. Oh no. What does the nurse need to do here, and what should the nurse do in this situation? Is this something that would get your students, if they're in healthcare, if they're nurse practitioners, if they're getting ready for an RN, is this something that would get your students excited and get them to start talking about this in the classroom and start using some of the language that you're trying to build? I'm just curious. What do you think? Let me know. Knuckle, just no hesitation there with a yes. I love that. You were ready for it. Emil, we'll try to get you that. Danny has some information and she can send that over. Thank you, Danny. That was what I was looking for. Brooke says yes. Fantastic. So again, this is just the lesson hook. This is just to get our students started. And remember, we could even do some remediation here. I could copy and paste this and move this out, but we're going to create another activity. So that was the lesson hook. Maybe I want to do a reading comprehension next. So I'm going to go into reading comprehension. We're going to go to next step. Again, this is one of the areas where I find this is so valuable as a tool because I can now create a custom tailored reading specifically for my phlebotomy students. So again, it's asking me for these areas. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut and paste that information in one more time. So here we go. We'll go back over here. So we are explaining procedures. We're going to have our students explain phlebotomy procedures. And here is my sample vocabulary set. And there we go. So I've just pasted that information in again. Same information I used to create the lesson hook. I'm going to go to next step. I'm going to select that B1 area and I'm going to generate my activity. And here again, I get my little notes. It's analyzing my content, focusing on teaching. I love that. Looking at the learning objectives. And then it's going to ensure the alignment with the GSE, my very favorite part, putting in some engagement content. And then so a little bit of trivia, because this is really kind of fun. It's just fun to watch this. I actually did not know about Bookkeeper, by the way. That was a fun little fact that I learned there. Depending on what you're doing, it can take a little bit longer. Sometimes it doesn't take as much time. This was a slightly more complicated reading. So we're going to go ahead, take a look at this. This is our reading. I'm going to pop this in the chat for those of you who are like, I can't read that text, Sarah. So take a look on the chat box. We'll copy that, try that again. It's not copying for some reason. Oh, it's not finished. That's what's going on. I'm like, why isn't it copying? Now we know. So this will, when it comes up, we can copy that. So here we go. I did not pay Pearson to put my name in here. Sarah is a very common name, so that comes up. She works in a city hospital. Every day she collects. This reading, for your English teachers, I'll let you read. If you're working with healthcare students, nursing, registered nurses, phlebotomy students, Is this a reading that you could use in your classroom to help support their English language development? I'll give you a second to read. Tell me what you think in the chat box. All right. So what do you think? I need more content like this. Well, the good news is you can create as much content like this as you want. This is all available in the Smart Lesson Generator. You come up with the topics, you pop that in, and then you can create it. And we're not even done. Take a look at this. As the generator was finishing, it also gave me not one, not two, but 4 comprehension check questions that I can also use with this. So everything is already included. All of that information is embedded here. Again, all I need to do at this point, and we're going to go back out, is copy that information. Again, I'm going to close and open a new screen just so you can see this happening. Very task appropriate, right? That is something where I really struggle with a lot of the large language models is appropriacy. Getting appropriate content. And you notice that I was not fighting with this bot. I didn't tell it 100 times what I needed it to do. I really just wanted that content to come out the first time. And look at this. I've pasted this now into my Word document. All I have to go is I save the answers for me. That's my answer key. I will say I did notice, and this is a comment for Pearson I mentioned, it is usually the first answer is the correct answer. So I just go and I mix that up really quickly, just kind of take that answer and move it around. Super easy to do. And then you can just mix that up. And there you go. Worksheet, ready to go, ready to hand out. I can give this to my students. It's an extra reading. It's a homework activity. Maybe it's an extra class activity that I'm using that day, but this is perfectly ready to go and to bring into my classroom. So I'm glad to hear that that is something that we could definitely use. So we're going to do one more. Someone give me a content area, like we were talking about phlebotomy. What is another area where you could really use some more content for your students that it's not because you don't have enough, but we always need more? HVAC. Somebody likes a challenge. All right, if we're going to do HVAC, Macklin, you're going to have to give me a task and an objective for HVAC, and then we will check this out and see what we can do for you, because I love a challenge and I'm willing to try. Food services up there. It's the first person who gets me the content area, a task, and a quick objective, and we will try that out. Ooh, and Claire, you're closer. That's a little bit more. And I love to challenge my audience. It's a little writing task. How quickly can we type? I love a speed task. All right, we'll give it a second more to see if we have anything else. All right, let's go. We were doing reading. I want to show another one. Let's go with communication starter. Since HVAC came up first, and fortunately, I do a lot of work in these areas, so I know. So the topic of our lesson is I am working with HVAC students, and they need to introduce themselves to a customer so they can begin work in the building. So Nicole, you're right there. Principles of refrigeration. Okay, this is superheating, subcooling. All right, I can do that too. So they need to explain. I am gonna fix this spelling mistake really quickly to a customer building. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. No worries. I'm a pretty fast typer, so we'll work that out. Because this is HVAC and this is a slightly more complicated area, I'm definitely going to say this is a B1 plus, so it's in that transitional intermediate space. And then we'll go ahead and generate an activity. So what we're doing here, this is a conversation starter. So this activity is specifically to get my students to have a conversation. I'm just pulling that up. And again, this is a focused and custom conversation that's being built for me by this lesson generator. I'm also getting a little bit of water. It never hurts to hydrate when you're doing a presentation. I've learned this the hard way. So as our lesson generator is coming in here, I do, one of my feedback tips for Pearson is more fun facts. I love those so much. I would like more variety there. Just a little note. So here we go. I'll give you a moment to read. Very All right. And Naklan, you were the one who asked, would you be able to use this? So this is what is the best way to explain the problem? And we have a couple of different examples of how we can explain the problem. So that's that conversation starter. Naklan, is this something that you might use in your classroom? I'd love to know. For me, if I'm using this, this is a great opportunity for doing a ranking or a consensus exercise with my students. These are great conversation activities. A ranking activity is where I have 1-2 students together or 3-4 students together, and they all have to work together to determine what the best answer is and then put them in the correct order. That requires a lot of communication, critical thinking, collaboration, even a little bit of creativity, especially if they know their area. So that's a great activity. Consensus is the group has to agree on what the best order is, and everyone has to agree. Then they're working through agreement and disagreement as well. So these are both great ways to get conversations going. And you'll notice that for each of these activities that I've generated, we didn't spend too much time focusing on this, but all of these activities come with teacher notes. So you're not just generating content, you're also getting a little instruction that you can bring into the class, and you would absolutely like to start incorporating this. So as you can see in the Smart Lesson Generator, this is all going to be done for us. It's very easy. That's a quick communication starter. I love how easy that is to do. Somebody else came up with food service. Let's do food service. And here, let's show off really quickly our vocabulary and grammar presentations. So serving food safely, I think I can work with that. From Michael up there. So we're going to go ahead into custom. For serving food safely, vocabulary words for that is like service, order, menu, allergy, spice level, maybe. Spice level. Let's do one more. Onions. All right, I'm just trying to think of some general language here. I am doing this in real time, so it's we're doing this together. But I'm trying to think of if we're working on something with safety. A lot of people can't eat onions. I can no longer eat onions, and I love them. Let's go with an A2 plus here. Food service work. This is generally our students are going to be still in the beginning of their learning journey. So A2 plus, again, that's that high beginner, not the lowest, but kind of in the intermediate area, or that in the in-between area, just at the end of their beginning stages. Again, we're going to generate that content and see how it goes. Janine, don't type your passwords into a chat. Nobody needs to see that today. So if that was an accident, sometimes we do that. And again, if you have questions or comments about the Smart Lesson Generator, we are about to get into that. So just let me know. So here's what happens when we do vocabulary presentation. Keywords here. This is a vocabulary presentation. It's not going to give me anything else. It's just going to present the vocabulary. But how convenient is it for you English teachers to have a clean vocabulary list with all of the definitions right there? How helpful is that to you almost immediately? And what could you do with that? I'm just kind of curious to the answers that you come up with. But take a look. All of these definitions are here. You can immediately take this to a worksheet. This is ready to go. You don't have to do any other work with it. It also gives you examples so I can see how this is used in a sentence. Again, this is all level appropriate, so I know this is absolutely at the right level for my students. It's organized, it's clean, and look at this Smart Lesson Generator. It goes above and beyond. It gave me a fun game that I can play where one student is the waiter, the other are customers. Each customer has a card. One says food allergies, spice level preferences, and then the students have to role play and do the order and give out those preferences. So Naklan says, I like the variation. This will complement my classes. Brooke says, I love the example sentences. And then we have more. We have teacher notes at the bottom as well. So with these vocabulary presentations, it's really just giving me the vocabulary I need, the quick examples, an interactive activity, and some notes on how to use that. But really, that's a lot of information for a busy English teacher. And I will give you a hint. If you use something like Quizlet, if you take this list and cut and paste it into a new deck on Quizlet, you can actually generate Quizlet flashcards with this in literally seconds. I do not have time to do that with you right now, but for the Quizlet users, if you know how to batch create Quizlet cards, you're ready to create Quizlet cards right away. This is all done for you. It's ready to go. So again, very simple to do. I can take this over and immediately put this in. Can it make menu cards? And Carol, I think you mean with a full menu. Not yet, but that might be something that we're able to do in the future. But at this time, it might be able to do some menu activities. My last couple of things, I want to show you one more thing before we jump out of here. Let's do a quick grammar presentation. I had HVAC, we did food service. There was another job role up there. I want to get back there. CDL. Remind me, CDL is the driving license. Yes, Adrienne? And sorry, I don't mean to not know that, but I always like to ask for acronyms to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So we're doing CDL. So what's your topic? Students are preparing for the heavy truck driving. I do want to give, because heavy truck driving exam. I want to give that information to this generator just so it knows exactly what we want to do. Students will be able to swap up, respond to common. All right, that was something I was not expecting to type, so my fingers were a little resistant, but we got there. So we'll see how it does. It's a slightly unleveled prompt, but we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm going to head for that B1 level commercial driver's license. Thank you. I'm like, eventually that C is going to come to me, but I appreciate that. Obviously, I do not teach those courses because it was not top of mind. But if you have students who do data analytics courses, I tend to see a lot of those students. So it's a little bit different for me. All right, again, so we're letting our fast generator go, which I have over here on my other screen, which is why I keep looking away. We'll see what this comes up with. And again, this is for the custom grammar. So just to get a sense of what that grammar looks like, and then I'll show you our final thing before we log off here today. So here we go. Again, I'll blow this up so we can see this. And I didn't tell it. Notice I never said the grammar rule, but look what it picked up. So it's like, well, when talking about driving heavy trucks, we need to ask and answer questions about license, regulation, and safety. So it gave us some question words and it gave us some modals. I think since I did not tell it specifically what grammar I was looking for, that's actually some really great intuition right there. And then I'm going to let you read really quickly. For those of you who are working with students who this might be relevant for, what do you think of this activity? Is this something that you could bring into your classroom? Again, this is a grammar presentation, so it's not an activity, but just explaining those grammar rules. Is that something that you could use? Taking a look there, and we'll scroll down. Ready? Again, we have our example sentences. Now, you will note a little bit of British English every once in a while that does slip in. Pearson obviously is a company that is based in the UK, but that's, once you bring it into your worksheet, very, very easy to correct for. So what do we think? Is this an activity that we could use? Who asked me about CDL? Get back up there and find out. Adrienne, what do you think? Very practical. I love hearing that, Violetta. Violetta, that is lovely to hear. It is very, very practical. Also, we're getting some teacher notes here. Again, this is a grammar presentation, so it's not doing all of the work that I might need. Olga says, yes, this is great. Thank you, Olga. Much better. Much better than what I could generate with ChatGPT, isn't it? ChatGPT is not good at doing this type of very custom, very highly focused content. So this is really where I love the Smart Lesson Generator. And just to kind of show you how we can bring this all together, the one thing we have not looked at yet is, here we go. We have not actually looked at the exit ticket. And to show you that, I'm actually going to show you something else. Let's make sure I have this on the right screen. Nope. Is this the one? No. Sorry, I was not expecting to go back and forth. There it is. All right. This Zoom is a little bit different from my normal Zoom, but that's okay. We made it work. All right, let me know if you can see explaining procedures to patients. If you can give me a quick
Yep.
thumbs up. Yes, Danny says it's available. Great. So I wanted to show you what this looks like as just like a cooking show. This is my baked example of a lesson. So we used phlebotomy earlier. I actually did a higher level for phlebotomists at that B1 level. I wanted to show you what it looked like when I created that content at an A2 plus level. So here, this is the lesson hook. My nurses had a mix up between an 85-year-old man and a 25-year-old man. That came from the lesson generator. The part that came from me, Sara, the teacher, I copied and pasted that into a Word document. And I just added a little scaffolding task so that my students can take notes as they're working through that discussion. And then I added, because this is what the teacher does, I added those additional activities so that my students can go from learning about the topic and discussing it to transitioning it to how they're going to use that language in their real life. So that's a quick example of how I went from the content from the Smart Lesson Generator and was able to build out an entire lesson that I can now deliver to my students. And I continued to do this. So take a look, this vocabulary activity, just the way that you saw it in the Smart Lesson Generator, I created the vocabulary set. All I had to do was then format it into a little definition matching. This took me literally less than 5 minutes, and now it's ready to go. And again, I just went ahead and added in the little bit of wraparound information that I need. My students do the definitions. They use the definitions to create questions or to write explanations. They work with a partner, and then finally they discuss their own work-life situation. So now I created this worksheet. It took me less than 5 minutes to do this. And it's totally target, very relevant, perfect for my students. We also, the reading comprehension, again, Smart Lesson Generator did all of the work here. It gave me the reading passage. It gave me the questions, as you can see here. All I had to do was add in the little pre-work task. And then finally, I added in my little post-class discussion there. And then my final piece, we got into the grammar. I'm going to go ahead and give that information. I literally just copied and pasted this from the Smart Lesson Generator. And then I added in a little activity at the bottom to have my students use the reading to find that language being used. Because I used the same target language, the same task, and the same vocabulary, everything came up and it was all prompted right there. So that was very simple to do. And the very final thing, there's my conversation piece. And finally, I want to show you my last piece, the exit ticket. So again, this is literally, I just copied and pasted this from the Smart Lesson Generator. There's no extra work here. With the exit ticket, you will always get an understanding check, a learning reflection, and an expansion task. So you can generate exit tickets for your Pearson books like Future, or you can generate exit tickets for something like that HVAC lesson. In fact, let's go back over to our Smart Lesson Generator one more time. My screen sharing was paused. No, I don't know why that happened. Sorry, guys. But I'm looking, and just for the sake of time, we won't jump back in, but you can jump back into the Smart Lesson Generator and do all of that work as well. So I am going to stop there because that was an awful lot of content very, very quickly. But I appreciate you being here the whole time. Before we head out here, I just have a couple of final things to share with you, and then we'll be done. So we'll go back over here. So again, thank you so much. If you have questions, now is a great time. We have about a few minutes left. We'll go ahead and answer, and I can hang out for a few extra minutes. My name again is Sara Davila. If you'd like to connect with me, I would love to have you connect. I do these types of sessions for Pearson all the time, and I will never stop talking about the global scale of English. So if you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to reach out to me. And if you would like to learn more about the Smart Lesson Generator, contact your reps. They are your best source of information. This little URL will get you there, and keep an eye out on your inbox. You will have an email from Pearson very soon, and that will include information on how to contact your reps. If you are currently using a Pearson product that has the Smart Lesson Generator attached, you will be able to access this as well. And I see some of your reps in the chat. So don't be shy. If you're in there, Les, I saw you in there too. Sheila's there. She will help you out there. Michael, thank you. I know that's very fast. It was fast and packed, but hopefully all very interesting and relevant and useful. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them at us now. Danny, did you see any questions that we need to answer? Did anything come through that I missed?
I don't think so, but we still
All
have a
right.
couple of minutes. If someone has last minute questions or something to we could address, let us know.
Right, Valley, you are welcome. I hope you get a chance to use this. Brooke, thank you so much. I'm glad this was relevant and practical. Yes, we do have a copy in the presentation. I do have a full cohesive lesson that we've generated. As you saw today was a lot of demo, but I do have in my slides an example lesson for you. And those packaged lessons, I'm going to hand those off to Daniela, and she'll be sending those out with a follow-up for this webinar today. So if you're curious about how you can get access to those, just stay tuned to your email and you'll have more there as well. There, Les says, if you cannot find your Pearson reps, here is the link. He added that into the Zoom chat for you. So if you're free to click on that. For your CUs, your continuing education credits. Danny, can you repeat that one more time? How do we get our certificates?
Oh, we are going to be sending your certificates via email. So to everyone who attended, you'll receive a copy of this presentation recording and the certificate.
Email, very important. Stay tuned
Yes,
to those
we'll
emails and be sure to
definitely,
pick them.
yes, we will be sending you a certificate for each session. Yep. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everyone. Thank you again so much for coming and for letting me show you my new favorite AI toy. Again, this just has so many benefits over just open source models that are out there. So I hope you explore it. And if you learned something great with this, do not hesitate to reach out to me and tell me what you're learning, or talk to your Pearson reps and let them know. I do know that Pearson is constantly evolving this product. So don't be shy about giving Pearson feedback. They really do listen to teachers. It's one of my favorite things about the company. So if you're using this, let people know, let them know what's working well for you. And if you have feedback that Pearson can use, be sure to use those tools to go ahead and communicate that as well. Thanks so much, Mahal. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're going to utilize this to customize and refine lessons. You generated an example of a sample reading and an interview, and it looks helpful. That's fantastic. I couldn't ask for more than to have someone jump in and generate their own content before you finish. That's fantastic. So thank you all, everyone. Danny, I'm going to stop talking and turn it back over to you for anything else, then we'll close it out.
That's it. I'll close it up. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.